Great evening, Phoebus.
Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to your Virgo new moon solar eclipse video with me, Raphael from Radiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Quick note, these are for everybody, and I'm obviously going to get into the general part of the eclipse, but then I will also be going sign by sign. And of course, you will get a little card in there as well. So that being said, this is a Virgo new moon solar eclipse at the very tail end of the sign of Virgo. This is what we call the anaretic degree, and in astrology, it's known to be a very intense point. It can sometimes also, tune into or express itself, certainly on the manifest sort of stage, as the shadow side of the sign. So, with that being said, remember, whenever we're talking, or should I say, whenever I'm talking about astrology, I'm always using the whole sign tropical Western astrology system for those of you that would like to know. And it's always worth noting that whenever you're talking about anything in astrology, first things first, no transit happens on its own. Nothing happens in a vacuum. There's always other things going on in the process of a moment that is unfolding. So whenever we look at a chart, effectively what you're looking at when you see that chart is how a moment is going to unfold, and what the potential is for that moment to unfold. Now, that being said, another thing that you want to consider as well is how, first of all, not all eclipses are created equal, and second, not all eclipses hit our charts in the same place. Some people are going to have this eclipse in an angular house, in which case they will feel it very much on the ground or the manifest sort of area of life. And with eclipses, the other thing that I want to mention is they're kind of like cosmic toolkits. That's how I kind of see the eclipses. It's like the universe gives you something and it says, right, you're getting this, but you're getting all of this stuff with it. And it will tend to unpack or unfold over the process of around 3 to 6 months, give or take, depending on how strong or how weak it's going to hit your chart. All right. So, those are all really important points to consider. Now, that being said, this is an eclipse that has an opposing or a newly rehoused Saturn as part of that retrograde at the tail end of Pisces. It's a potent energy because there's obviously a few more complex layers to this one that aren't sort of fully visible as yet. It's like there's a bunch of partial stories that are playing out at once. It's like something old is ending, something new is beginning, and all of it is kind of overlapping at the same time. An eclipse is a lunation that connects to either the north or the south node of the moon. And these aren't planets, they're actually calculated points. They represent the nodes, or the north and the south pole, if you like, of the moon. And the nodes have a very karmic sort of quality to them. They're portals of energy that either enhance or bring things in, diminish or release things depending on where the lunation falls in your chart. So, since this is what we call a south node eclipse, which is interestingly enough a very Saturnian kind of energy, it's about contraction, it's about release, it's about removal, it's about relinquishing, right? It's a time where you begin to understand what it is that needs to be released in order for you to flourish or to thrive in that particular area of your chart that you're having this eclipse. The new moon itself is a partial eclipse, right? And what we mean by that is it's a solid 10 degrees away from the node of the moon. But in astrology, 10 degrees when it comes to an eclipse is still considered an eclipse, even if it's a weak one. So my feeling about this is it's kind of because the intensity level is high because it's at the 29th degree of Virgo, but it's kind of got this quality to it where it's going to slip under the radar until it suddenly says, boom, hi, this is happening now, right? It's in a what we call a dissociated trine with Pluto in, a 1 degree retrograde of Aquarius. It's in a same trine by orb, at least, right? With Uranus, who is also retrograde in the sign of Gemini. Both of these retrogrades, and because it's by orb and it's also opposing Neptune at the same time, again, dissociated, right? So Neptune is at 0 degrees of Aries. Well, what comes just before that is 29 of Pisces. Well, Virgo and Pisces are directly opposite each other. So you're going to see this when I pull up the chart shortly anyway. But you'll see when we talk about something being dissociated, it effectively means that instead of there being an exact aspect within the same element, or should I say within the correct grouping of signs, it's happening across the next sign over. And so the connection is by orb, by degree, but not by sign. And so this adds a bit of a complex sort of layer to it, like a series of near misses or not quite. Now, the opposition to Saturn, however, is exact and it is by degree and it's by the correct sign. Saturn being retrograde adds another layer to this story. Luckily, the eclipse's ruler, which is Mercury, is in a sign that has a lot to do with harmony, diplomacy, balance, and grace. Mercury in Libra moves conversations and interactions as well, right? Towards fairness, towards equality and eloquence, but it also raises themes of and around actually the law, what is considered just. Libra, even though it's a masculine sign, is actually has a lot to do with women. And even though it's a wide orb, Mercury is also opposing Neptune, who is retrograde at the very start of Aries energy, creating another energy of confusion or another layer of what's unfolding at this moment in time. And then you add to that the South Node influence to this. This is a new moon, right? And remember, a new moon is a dark moon. It's the end of the old cycle and not quite the beginning of a new one. So it's kind of like we get a sense that not everything is as it seems at the time of this eclipse. And I really have to stress that that is probably the case. Something isn't being seen clearly and perhaps isn't being seen at all. So I will say to you, be conscious, but not necessarily cautious around this time. Now, that being said, because it is an eclipse, a lot of people say like the week before, the day of, and the week after. So if you've been with me long enough, you'll know that when it comes to a lunar transit, I usually say the day before, the day of, and the day after, because that tends to be the window where you see what the new moon or the full moon is activating for you and what the theme is likely to be. Well, since it's an eclipse, I usually say to people the week before, the day of, and the week after will be the general window where you really start to understand the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities around what the universe is bringing in for you with this eclipse. Some people say that you can feel them up to a month, depending on your sensitivity level. That's definitely a possibility. Some of the characteristics that could show up as a result of this, right? Because we're talking about the Pisces and Virgo axis here that are being highlighted and activated in a really powerful way. Perfectionism and criticism versus escapism and avoidance. Is there a chance that maybe, just maybe, that you're being overly critical of something because facing it would mean real change in your life? Maybe it feels easier to criticize than to dedicate yourself to something that you're not really sure will work. And that's a very human experience, right? This isn't me highlighting things for you to judge about yourself. It's hopefully me helping you understand how this might be playing out on an internal level so that as you meet these things on an external level, you can navigate them and manage them empowered rather than disempowered or even, let's call a spade, fucking blindsided. There are eclipses that feel like they had me bent over a desk, and there are others that passed like a blip in the wind, right? Um, I'm just going to give you that imagery. Why not? The second theme that you might see playing out here is control through routine versus victimhood and martyrdom. Is there something that you just don't want to sacrifice, even though you know that it would shift your routines or maybe even disrupt your status quo, right? And maybe this is really about control and where you feel like it's being taken away from you or imposed on you in some way, shape, or form. And it's one of the things that so I always tell this story, and I tell it a million times, and I've got no shame around it. So when I was 30, my life fell apart. It all went horribly, horribly wrong. I left a bad relationship. I ended up coming home to my old room that I left when I was like 17 years of age. It was a really hard experience, right? To come full circle like that. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, like, shit, Raf, this is bad. This is really bad. And at the time, I literally couldn't because of where I was and I didn't have any money. Do you know what I mean? Like I was in up shit creek without a fucking paddle, as we say here in the UK. Right? And I remember thinking to myself, the only thing at that time that I was able to control, there was a place in my hometown called Buzz Gym. For those of you that are in the UK, shout out to the Buzz Gym crew. Um, and it was like the cheapest, do you know what I mean? Like it was really cheap. They had good quality courses, classes at the time. Now they're not as good as they used to be. And I think that's all of the budget gyms. But trust me, like back in the day, Buzz Gym's classes were the shit. Like, trust me, they were the place to be. They were all like 45 minutes long. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. And the only thing that I could control in my life was going to a really shitty job that I absolutely hated, but was providing my way through where I was wading through the shit. And and that was going to the gym, right? So literally, I would go to work, I would come home. This is bearing in mind I didn't even have a car at the time, so I was getting the bus everywhere. Two buses to work, two buses home, get changed, get ready, take my stuff with me, jump back on the bus, go into town, get to the gym. And I would literally do three, sometimes four of those classes back to back because it was the only thing that I could control. It was the only thing that I could really sink my teeth into and say, nobody else can tell me what to do here. I'm going to put myself through this. And it was one of the best things that I ever did for myself. I lost a ton of weight. Young Rafi looks so hot. Any- Anyway, the reason I tell this story is this idea of control through routine versus victimhood and martyrdom. And the interesting thing is, at the time that this was unfolding for me, we were just about to start the eclipse cycle in Pisces and Virgo, right? Only the difference was that the south node was in Pisces and the north node was in Virgo. It's the opposite way around this time, right? So if you are feeling this and you're feeling like, you know what, I have no control in a specific area of my life, this is a chance for you to take that control back, right? You will have to relinquish something or sacrifice something for it, but it will be worth it in the long run. Analysis paralysis versus boundaries and versus boundaries dissolving. Is it possible that too much information is your problem? Is it possible that you are overthinking it because there's too much to choose from? Through lack of clarity, are you letting things slip that normally you wouldn't? This is a really important one to pay attention to because it's so subtle. So usually we miss this kind of thing. The next theme that I want you to think about is overextending versus delusion and deception. Where do you believe that if you just gave a little bit more, that if you just do more, that if you just dedicate yourself a little bit harder, then you'll win, then you'll be loved, then you'll be accepted, then you'll be, fuck all of that, right? Sack that off. And where do you know deep down that all of that I just mentioned is a delusion? This is a time to get really honest with yourself, right? Now, finally, the last thing that I want to talk about that I haven't mentioned up until now, but is worth mentioning because Virgo and Pisces are the health axis. This is the health axis of signs, right? Where might your physical vitality, physical health and vitality be suffering because your mind and your spirit are filled with toxicity? And vice versa. Where are you poisoning your body and your energy through what you're consuming, both mentally and spiritually? When was the last time you gave yourself and your life a bloody good cleanse? And this doesn't, I'm not expecting everybody to go out on a juice cleanse and go wild and stuff and detoxing for the next 2 weeks of my life. Like, it's not about that. It's about really taking a solid look to say, is this nourishing and nurturing my physical health and vitality, or my mental health and my spiritual health and vitality? Or are these things that I could probably do away with or get rid of now that would actually be very helpful, very healing, and potentially very cathartic for me? Remember, this is a South Node eclipse. So something, because it's a new moon, something is coming in. But because it's a South Node eclipse, we have to give something up. Something has to be removed, given away, given up. Especially with Saturn in the sign of Pisces opposing this, it's kind of saying you have to let something go and you won't be in control of whatever it is or whoever it is that's leaving your life at this time. But it will create a sense of freedom and liberation once you allow it to be released without fighting against it. Think about those themes that I mentioned because they might give you an understanding of where you can kind of say, like, actually, yeah, this is what I'm willing to release or to trade out. This is what I know kind of needs to go in my life. Now, we're going to take a quick look at the chart and then we're going to get into exploring how this will affect each of the 12 signs and what you want to look out for or prepare for, or maybe even prepare to let go of. All right, stay tuned and let's have a look. Okay, so let's have a look at the chart. So here you can see this chart is set for London, by the way. So as always, unless you're from the UK, don't pay attention so much to the house placements. I'm going to talk about your house placements when we get to the 12 signs, but this is just so that you can have a look at the chart to kind of see what it looks like, to see what's going on. So to get back to this idea of dissociation, let me just point something out, right? So you can see here the eclipse is at 29 degrees of Virgo and so 29 degrees and 5 minutes. Now, when you see the South Node here, very, very close to it, but look, it's at 18. So it's a good 10 degrees out. So this is why we say that it's a partial eclipse, not a full one. Now, because the next degree that would follow this is not actually 30 degrees of Virgo, it would actually be 1 degree or 0 degrees of Libra. Right, because the degrees in astrology go from 0 to 29, right? So there is 30 degrees, but they run from 0 to 29. Now, because in astrology, for something to be considered close or within orb, we say 3 degrees, right? If we want to keep it tight, we say 3 degrees. Depending on what planet and everything that you're looking at, you can use wider orbs for that, just like we do with the eclipse, right? That's a very wide orb of 10 degrees. But because this is so close to that 0 degree of Libra, can you see how the blue triangle is setting up with Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius retrograde and Uranus at 1 degree of Gemini retrograde? Because it's so close to this 0 degree, it's setting up what we call a grand trine. Now, if this eclipse were at 0 degrees of Libra, that would be what we call a grand air trine. But because it's in the sign of Virgo and it's right at the tail end, it's setting up the grand trine, but it's a dissociated grand trine. And so it really adds this layer of complexity to the whole thing. Now, as if all of that wasn't enough, we also have the eclipse at 29 of Virgo opposing Saturn at 28 degrees of Pisces. So Saturn's retrograde at this moment in time, but it's still Saturn. Right now, Saturn, when it's retrograde, does tend to give us a little bit of a break. And I think that one thing that's really evident here is it's trying to reveal some level or layer of mastery to or for us, especially because it's a part of forming this kite formation, which is made up of the Grand Trine, then the two sextiles, right? But then within that, you also have the opposition. So there's a lot going on, right? Now, you add to this that Saturn is retrograde as well because Neptune is at 0 degrees of Aries. It's also opposing this. this eclipse, right? And Neptune always brings the fog, brings a little bit of illusion. I like to one of the ways that I really like to think about Neptune is it's kind of like a magnifying glass, right? Sometimes it brings something really close so you can see it really clear, and then if you pull it away or you maybe move it or whatever, then it all gets weird and distorted and you can't really see it too clearly. So it's kind of, you know, its function is an interesting one. And Neptune is fantasy and illusion and, you know, transcendence and altruism and sometimes seeing things the way that we would like them to be as opposed to how they really are. So again, because this is in Aries, if it was in Pisces, like Saturn, this would be a true opposition, right? But it is an opposition by orb, but it's a dissociated opposition with Neptune. So that adds another layer of complexity to this whole thing. Now you add to that that Saturn is at 28 degrees of Pisces. Mars is at 29 degrees of Libra, and then on top of that, you've got the eclipse at the 29th degree of Virgo. The final degrees of a sign are truly about mastery, right? And if shout out to Shanna Cross, if you don't know her, she used to work with Heather from Astrology with Heather. She's a great astrologer in her own right, and she one of the things that we talked about in the past actually. Shout out to Heather as well because you know both of them are awesome, but you know what I mean. Anyway, it was one day we had this discussion about how the final degrees of a sign really are about mastery. So there's something in this Virgo energy, in this Virgo part of our chart that we are trying to master. And look, right, it mixes this mastery final conclusion energy of the eclipse is mixing with this brand new fresh energy of the very start of the air signs. So something about our material or financial or even practical world or experience is trying to break a habit, then we can bring in new power, new connections, new interactions, and more importantly, start to make new conversations around everything that we're doing. And I think this at some point is going to be really, really important for all of us. And you know, there's just so much to unpack here as well. On top of that, the ruler of this eclipse, Mercury, it's in the mix. It's a very, well, I say it's a wide orb. If we're counting 10 degrees for the eclipse, then we can count 5 degrees for Mercury and Neptune, right? It is opposing Neptune. What I like about this Mercury in Libra, though, is it's in what we call a mutual reception with Venus. Even though she's not necessarily a massive part of this story, I do feel like that's important because Venus is currently the ruler of Mercury. Mercury's okay in Libra. Venus, however, is not so okay in Virgo. And the fact that they're in each other's signs, I actually think is giving us, even if it's just a little bit, it's giving us a little bit of grace in this whole situation as it unfolds. All right, so I am going to stop waffling about this, even though I wanted to show you, I think it's important. Um, and I'm going to get into the breakdown of all 12 signs. So we're going to start, as always, with Aries. But before we do, I would like to bless my decks of cards with the forms of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help us all on our paths to our highest vibrational good. So for the first sign, Aries, this is happening for you in your sixth house of health matters, routines, daily habits, and the precision that's required to activate something more for yourself, especially where your physical health and vitality are involved. Since there is that trine to the energies of Pluto in your 11th house and Uranus in your third house, there also happens to be an opposition from your 12th house, right? And then this sixth house energy eclipse, you're going to need to remove something from your plate. right? Something from your daily experience. It's like there's too much. You're trying to do too much all at once, and maybe something's getting lost in translation, or maybe it's just not going ahead in or with any traction in the way that you would like it. Maybe this is about removing something from your diet, especially because Venus in the same sign as the eclipse rules your second house of food and sustenance and how you really look after yourself in terms of what you maintain is the sixth house, but how you nourish yourself is the second house. So there's definitely a dietary element to this for sure. And then with the energy of Libra being your seventh house of partnerships, maybe it's a partnership or a contract of some sort that highlights this to you or helps you move forward with it. Now, there are three components to this that I'm going to explore for each of the 12 signs. And the first one is you'll need to be really honest about what your skills are and what you are missing in order for you to move forward in some way, shape, or form, because the sixth house is a work house as well. Now, in terms of like balance of flow and challenge, there's still some kind of mental health work I think that needs to be done here, Aries. And this is about you really coming down to understand, okay, what are my true goals? And how am I marshaling my resources and making solid choices as to where to go from here? And what goals are really worth pursuing and what ones aren't, especially when I think about this through the lens of, so I'll give you an example. Let's say you set yourself a target and you're like, right, I'm gonna be a millionaire. And you absolutely just, go hammer and tongs at it, but your health completely suffers because you're like, you push everything away, you push everything, everyone, all the rest of it away for this specific goal. And then you kind of stop and you think, actually, this goal is slowly but surely sort of killing me, right? So there's something about this eclipse that's saying to you, is this goal worth pursuing? Is there a better way for you to do this on a daily level? Or are there things that you can incorporate as part of this experience that are going to help you really manifest what you desire, but in a way that doesn't see you grinding yourself into a paste? Now, on the other part of this, I think if you get to grips with it, like if you really get to grips with the dynamics or in your relationships and your partnerships, things could really take an upswing for you. But it's going to require you to be just as upfront with yourself and about what the real story is as you are with others, right? So since Mercury, the ruler of this eclipse, is in the seventh house, I think this is about some kind of mental gymnastics that might need to take place as you turn someone into a true ally or make a connection work for you in some regard. Your card for the eclipse is the Two of Cups, right? You literally can't make it up. So, partnership, relationship, interactions, connections. Even though this is a sixth house eclipse, the ruler of the eclipse is in the seventh house of relationships. Relationships, partnerships, connections, collaborations. Um, Personal, professional, and platonic. This, I think, for a lot of you guys, because the sixth house is a burden house, right? It's a house of burdens, challenges, things that feel like drudgery, things that feel heavy. And, because of that opposition to Saturn in the 12th house as well, I feel like this is a change in mental perspective where it's like you see somebody actually as an ally rather than like, oh, this person feels like a burden or a challenge to me. Taurus, this for you is a fifth house eclipse. An eclipse in the fifth house is all about pleasure and play, but it's also about identity and pleasure, right? And leisure pursuits as well. Could be a really wonderful time for you to think about how you what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, yeah, how you truly unburden yourself. Like, what do you need to let go of in order to really enjoy yourself? If you've got children, this might be a really good time to start thinking about how to strengthen the bond between you, to create new habits, to create new patterns, new memories around enjoyment, right? It's like, what is enjoyable? What is pleasure? Is it too much or is it not enough of it? And in the trine to Pluto and Uranus, there's something to do with your work and your daily life. And I think this is kind of more linked to, you know, something that you actually of all signs know more about than most, right? Which is value. What is worth it or not? And career-wise, what do you know needs to be released in order for you to create more fun, more time in general, actually, right? For your own pursuits, for things that feel like they're taking you in a direction that you really want to travel in. Now, in terms of your talents with direction, that Mercury as the ruler of as the ruler of the eclipse in your sixth house is asking you to think about how you share your knowledge at work. Do you put it to best use? Information and knowledge can also be a currency, Taurus. So, how are you using it? Now, in terms of balancing flow and challenge, Saturn in that 11th house is really testing your group connections and your friendships. It might even be that you feel the weight of what or who you are tied to, and maybe it's showing you what feels heavy, right? Do you have hang-ups around social media? Saturn could be really highlighting this to you now to say, like, you want to grow, you want more pleasure, more leisure. You're going to have to think about creating 11th house, more passive income. You're going to have to think about automating things or using the power of social media to your advantage. And because it's Saturn in opposition to this eclipse, it's kind of like until you do this thing, you're not going to move forward at the speed that you would like, and therefore you won't be able to have as much fun as you want. So again, this idea of you're going to have to sacrifice something to get something, but it's worth it in the long run. All right. Now, especially because the 11th house is also your future goals, aspirations, and dreams. It's like how you shape your future is really being called into question here. And really how you express yourself, the fifth house, it requires you to do something differently in the other space. Potential for mastery for you. If you like, what are you willing to go out on a limb for to do differently than ever, or maybe than anyone else that's doing it in your arena? Are you prepared to have a phoenix moment to rise stronger than ever before? Because this might be that time. For you guys, what? Right? You've got the magician card. Of course you do, right? Like you can't make this stuff up. So interestingly enough, the magician is Mercury. Obviously, that Mercury energy for you is in that sixth house. So there's an element of work around this. But this is really trying to show you that you have everything that you need to create more time, to create more freedom, to create more pleasure, to create more leisure. Above all and else, what is the magician? He is a creator, right? Somebody that can literally create seemingly something out of seemingly nothing. You have all of the components, but you need to use your magic to create what it is that you want. And at the moment, with a fifth house eclipse, it's about creating more pleasure, more fun, more play, more freedom, more time with your kids if you have them, less time with your kids if you got them and they're old enough. Whatever it is, it's kind of like you need to create this. You need to use your mastery. You need to use your magic, Kenny. All right, so you better get to it. So for Gemini. This for you is happening in your fourth house of home, family, your foundations, but it lands for you in this, especially because Mercury is your ruler and Mercury's in the sign of Libra at this time in your fifth house. So it's kind of like there's a part of you that really wants to play, but your emotions and your roots are pulling you back to say, this needs to be looked at first. And because of this, energy of you've got Pluto in that ninth house and Uranus in your first house, there's a clear story about liberating your sense of self so that you can pursue much bigger horizons to shift your perspective in some way. Old scripts from family or place might be loosening now. Well, not even loosening, just like straight up breaking fucking free, right? Like new definitions of home and belonging are absolutely emerging for you at this time. And I think with the talent and the direction, that Mercury energy or you sitting in the fifth house is like using play and creativity and your voice to rescript the family narrative and really to use and to tap into joy and honest self-expression become the bridge that really kind of It helps you stabilize your foundations or your roots as you start to embody a greater sense or a greater version of who you are. Now, the balance of flow and challenge. Well, Saturn for you is in that 10th house, opposing the eclipse, right? So, career and reputation, public identity, public service, and duty are asking for maturity and boundaries. Saturn is retrograde, so this is you rethinking how you present yourself to the world, maybe even reintroducing yourself to your public in some way, shape, or form. Love a little reboot. I love a little reboot. When what is it that you really need to release now or let go of so that your home, and what do you need to let go of in the home sector so that you can carry on what really feels aligned in your public persona, how you present yourself to the world? Are you taking on responsibilities that really don't fit the person that you're becoming? You'll know because you'll think to yourself, I don't know why I'm doing this. So if you're just going through the motions, Gemini, it's time to get really serious about why. All right. The potential for mastery, well, if you're willing to renovate the inner structure, because remember, your fourth house is your habits, it's your home, it's your patterns, it's your roots. Your fourth house is also you behind closed doors. Your fourth house is also your deep emotional makeup. So you could unlock that really powerful ninth house surge of energy through publishing and travel, renewed sort of, or not even renewed philosophies, like different viewpoints that enrich and nourish how you see the world. Uranus in that first house, it really wants freedom. It's asking you to break away from how people have known you up until now. And, everyone always talks about Gemini being fickle and blah, 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 blah. My feeling around this is maybe the thing that you do differently from now on is that you let people get to know the real you, right? Gemini. And what I mean by this is Gemini has so many facets. Lots of people say like, oh, Gemini's really two-faced, and it's like it's such a stereotype. It's not. They're the natural chameleons of the zodiac. They can fit in anywhere, right? Gemini and Scorpio, actually, and Aquarius, actually, you could put them anywhere and they would fit in. Maybe this is about saying, okay, I know that I can do that, but I want to start building a version of me, or I want to start revealing a version of me that is a lot more static, right? And because this is Uranus energy, when you zig, it zags, right? And so people are used to seeing multifaceted sides of you. Maybe the thing that you do different from here on in is that you start to crystallize that sense of self. All right, especially with Saturn, retrograde in that 10th house of how you present yourself to the world. Your card is the Sun of Cups. So this is actually the Knight of Cups in this deck. And the Knight of Cups is all about opportunities. It's all about what you put out into the world, what you share with the world. It's also about understanding what you bring to the table. And I think this eclipse in that fourth house, in your deep emotional self and your roots, I think you're about to understand yourself and your history in a way that maybe you never have, or maybe you haven't for a long time. And it's like through that clarity of self that you have, you start to really understand, like, wow, okay, if all of that is me and I ball that history up and I use it as my power pack, what that actually means that I bring to the world or bring to the team or share with the world is all of this. And suddenly people start to really understand who you are, what you bring to the table. And this is not to say that they don't already. It's just to say that up until now, maybe people have only had a version of you. And from here on in, they start to get like the true, real essence of you. And I think that's going to be so much more powerful. For my Cancer, lunar brothers and sisters, this for you is happening in your third house. This is the house of communications, siblings, learning. It's also your immediate environment. Something here is shifting. Now, a habit of thought, maybe the way that you share your voice, maybe the way that you communicate, how you interact with those closest to you in some way. Your third house is the place that you go and buy your milk from every other day. It's the websites that you visit every day. It's your neighbors, it's your siblings. Your third house as well, third house eclipses. just as much, if not sometimes more, than third house eclipses tend to bring changes of location. If you feel like you're due for this, this could absolutely bring one of them in, right? With the trine to Pluto in your eighth house and then Uranus in that 12th house, there you might find that there are like really powerful conversations that open doors to deeper emotional truths at this moment in time. And I really like this actually for being able to have deeper, more profound, potentially more vulnerable conversations than maybe you have in a long time. Maybe you're able to look at something or go into something through words, communication, third house, that maybe before it, because Cancer is all about the feels, right? So it's not that you're not emotionally adept. It may just be that I'm going to say this. I'm about to out you, Cancers. So I just want to say, like, I apologize in advance. Every Cancer has. I always talk about the Cancer cave, right? So we scurry in, we go into our little, or is it, I say we, because as many of you know, I have a Cancer moon. I'm very proud of that fact. I love my Cancer moon, right? I really do love it. But I'm not blind to how it can show up. We have a what I call the Cancer cave, right? So we retreat into our little place, we lick our wounds, we do our thing, we, stew about it a little bit, and then we take the shell off, we give it a good wash, and then we get back to it. But within every Cancerian is that one. So, and this is true for all of us in some way, but obviously Cancer is the sign of feelings. Within Cancer, there is a core wound, right? One that we really hold on to, that no matter how much work you do, it's kind of always there. Like it's not there constantly, or maybe it is for some of you, but it's kind of there, right? Like this could be that through this eclipse, or as a result of, or around this eclipse, you are able to have a dialogue about that core wound to really open it up, to really say, right, this is where this comes from. This is what really hurts about it. This is, the best that I've been able to do with it. It could be that there's something that you share, something that you really put yourself out there and make yourself really vulnerable with, to say, like, this thing happened to me. I'm not fully over it, or I haven't processed all of it. And, this is to show you that dot, 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 right? I feel like this could actually be, if you are willing to let go of, remember, this is a South Node eclipse, so we have to let go of something in order to gain whatever's coming in. Third house is interviews, it's sibling connections. Third house is contracts as well. It's work, it's commercial, sales, and all the rest of it. There's something here that I think, in a lot of ways, while it may feel like it makes you completely vulnerable, could absolutely endear you to people and have them look at you not differently. I mean, they will look at you differently because they'll be like, damn, like, I didn't know that about you, right? And so they see this other side of you, and suddenly people are like, yeah, you know what? I'm there with you, right? You could make a lot of connections, especially in your local area or your local environment in some way. Now, the talent with direction, Mercury ruling the eclipse, is in the fourth house. The key lies in how you bring harmony to your foundations, to your family, to your living circumstances. Maybe finding balance at home is what strengthens you to communicate how you process information outwardly. And also, maybe, that sense of, okay, I can communicate my feelings with a greater sense of depth now, and I'm not afraid anymore, right? Like there's something about this where it's like whatever you share at this time, or as a result of this over the next 3 to 6 months, it just really, I think it could have a really profound effect on your future and your success, actually. The balance of flow and challenge, well, you've got Saturn in that ninth house, highlighting your belief systems, your belief structures, the philosophies that you hold about the world. Your spiritual frameworks are really pressing on you at the moment, and your communications and how you communicate with the world. It's being tested to say, like, do your words really reflect what you actually feel? Is the wisdom or lack of that you are putting forward actually coming from you, from a place that you really are connected to, or is it just inherited noise, right? Is what you're saying truly your truth? Is, I think, what's happening here. That Saturn is really pressing, right, for that reason. Now, the potential for mastery is the moment to refine your message, to claim your voice. If you really commit to being a clear, conscious communicator. It's like you almost like become the bridge effectively between like that sort of third space and the ninth even. And then you've got that Uranus energy in the 12th house. Breakthroughs could come through dreams, through intuition, through time that you spend alone or in exile or isolation. But they can radically reshape the way that you think and speak and communicate out in the world. Sorry, I know that was really, really long-winded, but there was so much that I felt like I had to say here. Now, for you guys, you've got the Four of Wands. If there were ever a card of foundations, right? The Four of Wands is absolutely it. But this is also, we call it a card of celebration. And I think, if anything, this is about owning your story and your history and being able to talk about it in a way where you present yourself as I've always preferred the word survivor to victim. Victim, when you say like, I just don't like the word victim. I prefer the word survivor. Because that's got some grit to it, right? It's got some, like fuck what happened to me. I survived that shit, right? I came through it. Um, Four of Wands, right? Celebrate your history, own it, command it. it, this is kind of like, when you see somebody on the red carpet and they're like, oh, so and so's wearing this and this and this, and it kind of looks like it's wearing her rather than she's wearing it. This is kind of like that, right? This is where you get to wear and own your history rather than it being something that weighs you down. Okay. Leo, this is happening in your second house of money, finances, possessions, your resources, your self-worth, right? It's also your dietary habits, your food. And because this is a South Node eclipse, there may be something that you are getting rid of, something that you're phasing out, something that you're removing from your diet. Something here is shifting. The way that you earn, the way that or what you cling to for security actually could really be shifting at this time. And it's like whatever story you tell yourself about your value, about your worth, on top of that, you've got Pluto opposing you in your seventh house, which is asking you to get really clear on the power dynamics in your relationships, in the connection to this eclipse. It may be, are you seeing your true worth in your relationships and what you bring to the table? Are you seeing how the relationships, the partnerships, the connections, the collaborations actually feed or nourish your self-worth or not, as the case might be? The trine to Uranus in the 11th house, there's a bigger story unfolding about where you go, how partnerships and communities reflect or potentially sort of distort the way that you really see yourself. This is not just about money. I actually think this is about whether your relationships and your networks and your friendships are really supporting who you're starting to become. All right. Now, the talent with direction. Mercury, as the ruler of this eclipse, is in your third house. Communication is the tool here, right? How you speak about what you do and the confidence that you exude as you share your ideas is really tied to your financial and your energetic growth here. Do you talk yourself down? Do you articulate your own worth and value with clarity, with honesty, right? Because the thing about Libra energy, it's not just about balance and fairness, it's also about honesty, right? And one of the things that comes up here is, do you like the words that you use, the way that you speak about yourself, the value that you attribute to yourself, does it match up with attracting the kind of things into your world or your life that you really want to bring in? That becomes the question here. The balance of flow and challenge. Well, Saturn in the eighth house directly opposing this eclipse, testing your shared finances and resources, your debts, loans, power dynamics. It's helping you think about, where are the responsibilities that I'm carrying that are not mine? Where is it that I either rely on others for security when I really need to build my own? This eclipse might really highlight where you've overextended yourself or leaned too heavily on someone else's resources, and it's asking you to reclaim your independence. In fact, it's forcing you to reclaim your independence, especially because this rules your sixth and seventh houses. So this is, Saturn now in that eighth house is kind of saying, whatever connections are redundant about how you value yourself, or the ones that are creating this devalued sense of self, what are you going to do about it? Because it's there now in the eighth house, right? It's at 28 degrees at the moment. I think it gets all the way back to like 26 and then goes direct. And then in February of 2026, it's done, right? We're done for the next 30 years. So you're wrapping up a big cycle here, Leo. The potential for mastery. This is about rewriting the story of your worth. If you release, or you let go of, or you're willing to let go of the stories that you tell yourself, if you're willing to let go of what you associate as what you associate with or as your worth, or the entanglements that really keep you playing small, you're going to create a space for your authentic self to really shine. Pluto in your seventh house says that the power dynamics in relationships are really central. And that Uranus in the 11th is basically saying, if you are willing to align with communities or people that really mirror your own brilliance, or at least amplify it in some way, and you're willing to open all of this up. Remember, the 11th house is also a money house. So that's interesting. What's really interesting as well is that Mercury, the ruler of your second house, also rules your 11th house, because the 11th house is Gemini, where Uranus is. And it's trying to show you like how you build your future goals, visions, and dreams. And then Mercury in the third, you got to think about it, right? What do you want from your future? What does that actually look like? How can you start to build a passive income? How can you start to build, a network of people or connections that are actually going to help or enhance you and help you rebuild your sense of self-worth rather than diminish it? Let go of the old scripts about value, right? What you're worth is not up for debate. Uh, Okay, it's something for you to really find a way um to embody, right? It's something for you to really learn to embody. Okay. Now, for you, your card is the Father of Cups. This is very interesting to me. One, because it suggests that your creative vision is really the way through all of this. It also suggests that the things that you have intuitively been telling yourself, this is the way to go, this is what I need to do, this is the direction that I should take. It's like the things that you have intuitively been picking up on, you've been ignoring or pushing to the side. And now it's kind of getting to the point where it's palpable and you actually have to do something with it. I will also say as well, your message from and via this eclipse is, the things that are worth something about you have nothing to do with money or stuff. They have everything to do with your heart. All right. Virgo, this is a first house new moon solar eclipse. This is about your identity. It's about your body. It's about how you show up in the world. And that anaretic degree of your sign is bringing a culmination. It's bringing rebirth. A version of you is ready to end now, so that your truer, not true, but truer self, right? The most updated version of who you are can really start to burst forward and emerge. You think about this applying to Pluto. This trine to Pluto in your sixth house and that Uranus energy in the 10th house. This is not just surface level change. This is your work, your habits, your health. This is stuff that's tied to your career and your calling and your public life. If you transform the way that you approach your daily experience, your outer reputation is going to shift dramatically. But to add to this, the ruler of the eclipse, you, the ruler of the eclipse is you, because Mercury is you, is in the second house, right? So, yes, it's about your body and your identity, but it's about how you, second house, value yourself, how you really perceive and understand yourself, how you talk about yourself, how you create yourself, how you use your skills to shape yourself out in the world. Your talent with direction, well, Mercury's sitting in that second house. The resources are central now, right? And that's not just about this, it's about everything within you, including you as a resource. This is about communicating your worth so clearly and so unapologetically that the stronger your sense of self, the more powerful your rebirth at this time is going to be. And being at the 29th degree, honey, this is a phoenix moment if ever there were one, right? Um, I'm obsessed with the Phoenix recently, as you can tell. This whole year, it's just been my emblem for so many different things. The balance of flow and challenge, right? Well, you've got Saturn in the seventh house. It's highlighting the weight of your partnerships, what you share with others. Are your relationships supportive or do they make you feel small? The eclipse in the first house is reminding you that your identity can't just be an amalgamation of everybody else, right? That's kind of like the shadow side of Pisces. I can fit in anywhere, so I don't fit, I can fit in anywhere, so I don't belong anywhere, right? I'm not one thing, I'm everything, right? And therefore sorry to say, but you kind of become nothing, right? It's like this idea in sales where they say if you sell to everybody, then you sell to nobody. Yours is the sign of precision. Yours is the sign of detail, right? Of honing down, of niching down. So, and this isn't to say that you have to exclude any facet of who you are. It's just to say, like, who do you think you are? It's a really interesting consideration because Mercury had a similar kind of message, but I think this is even more powerful for you because the eclipse is in your sign. Finally, the potential for mastery. It's like if you align who you are in that first house with the habits that sustain you, the sixth house, you're going to unlock breakthroughs in your 10th house, right? In your career. Pluto in the sixth house is really getting you to take a long, hard look at the unhealthy routines so that you can rebuild your daily life with power at the central focus. Uranus in the 10th house is really bringing potentially actually sudden recognition or radical career shifts where you kind of go in directions and people are like, okay, what's this now? But if your outer life reflects the authentic shifts or version that you feel is being born now, listen, don't let nobody get in your way, right? For this, you've got the Seven of Pentacles. You're reminded to be patient. You're reminded to be bold. You're reminded to be honest as you invest in and reshape and cultivate who you are. How you bring yourself to the world has to be a process. It has to be an unfolding rather than like an event, okay? And it is an eclipse. It's going to unpack, right, over 3 to 6 months. Ones that are in the first house, though, they tend to bring a lot of shift. They really, really do. So, Libra, for you, this is happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is a pretty gnarly space for an eclipse, especially a new moon solar eclipse because it's a dark moon, right? One thing that I have found, and maybe this is just me personally, but eclipses in the 12th, they tend to bring I mean, my dreams have always been powerful anyway, but eclipses in the 12th and new moon eclipses in particular, they tend to bring an element of like, when you see films and like all of a sudden, like, they're in color and then all of a sudden they go black and white. but there's like an intensity to it. The dreams around a new moon solar eclipse in the 12th house tend to be very consequential. It's the same for full moons, but in slightly different ways. The eclipse activate in your 12th house of your subconscious, of endings, completions. 12th house is also hidden enemies and also spiritual retreat. So when we talk about hidden enemies, sometimes a hidden enemy is literally that, right? Someone who is gossiping behind your back and blah, 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 blah. Sometimes, however, a hidden enemy is what I like to call where the call is coming from inside the house. Your self-sabotaging tendencies are the 12th house, right? And so sometimes what's being activated there, that hidden enemy is a part of you that is sabotaging you. Now, what's really interesting is your ruler, Venus, is actually in the sign of the eclipse at this time, right? And Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is actually in your sign at this time, which I think means in some way, shape, or form, you are going to be able to remember a lot of the dreams that unfold for you, even those ones of you that are like, oh, I never remember my dreams. I just know that there's a lot happening in them. This could be one of those times where you really remember a lot of your dreams. And my advice to you would be, start keeping a dream journal. Start paying really close attention to what's happening with your dreams. Something here is dissolving, an old pattern, a hidden way, a way of sabotaging yourself that you've outgrown. And that trine to Pluto, which for you is in the fifth house, and that Uranus energy in the ninth house, it's connecting joy and creativity and also your higher mind. This is how we learn through pleasure and play, but it's also about how you find spiritual renewal through those things as well. Letting go of hidden baggage makes space for more authentic sense of play, maybe even more authentic sense of romance as well. Like this could be where you start to really understand, like, wow, like my hang-ups around sex and creativity and joy and expression and self-expression and all of that stuff is actually linked to some, part of my history where I think like this, and I think like this because of these beliefs that I picked up from dot dot dot. Now, the talent with direction, Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is in your first house, right? Which means that your mind, your words, and your identity are directly tied to how you navigate this cycle of release. What you really start to, what you're starting to let go of is how you frame your story, right? And are you speaking yourself into liberation or keeping yourself shackled to the past? That really is the truth of it at this moment. Balance of flow and challenge. Well, Saturn in the sixth house opposing this eclipse in your 12th. This is the health axis, right? Your physical health and vitality versus your mental health and vitality. And Saturn in the sixth is pressing on that health to say, are you looking after your body? Are you doing all the things? Are you getting your water? Are you getting your 8 hours of sleep? You might feel the weight of responsibilities on that daily level start to really drain you. And what that is, that's not Saturn punishing you. It's trying to get you to say, what habits or duties or unseen burdens are you ready to let go of, and that you can focus on so that you can really focus on what really matters to you, but also so you can kind of say to yourself, like, actually, that's not mine to deal with, is it? I should probably give this over, right? So get honest with yourself, your potential for mastery. If you are willing to release what's hidden, what's unconscious, you give yourself permission to live with a greater sense of self-honesty. That Pluto in the fifth is kind of saying that your joy and creativity and even your love life is ready for a deep transformation. And Pluto in the fifth, this is like, are you ready to explore? Are you ready for some adult play? Right? Like if you're partnered, this is a time, right? If you are single, this is a time, right? In that trine to Uranus in the ninth, there is a promise of breakthroughs in your worldview, your perspective, your philosophy, or maybe even your spiritual truth as you start to uncover or unfold experiences or practices that really serve to help you understand how everything can be sacred when you truly romance the ordinary. All right. Like I see this as a really powerful breakthrough moment for a lot of you guys, actually. This is really about letting the past dissolve so that you can step into a future that is shaped by joy and fun and creativity and pleasure. If you have children, it might show up that this experience for you, because that's that Pluto in the fifth, is really trying to show you like you wouldn't let them be shackled by or stopped by this stuff. So why are you living in a way that demonstrates that they should? Okay. Your card is the Knight of Swords. All the Libras in the comments are about to come for wrath. Like, who the fuck do you think you is, bitch? Jokes aside, the Knight of Swords is about fast, aggressive communication, but it's also about charging in. Libra is not a charging in kind of energy, right? This may, however, this eclipse, right, especially as the ruler of the eclipse is in the first house, this might see you feel like you need to be proactive about something where you're just like, you know what, fuck it. I have to get involved. I have to be a part of this. I want to be a part of the conversation. Shit, I want to lead the damn conversation. I'm here for all of that. Just make sure that your message is not getting lost in translation because sometimes what we say, sometimes how we say what we say is what really allows that message to land or not, as the case might be, right? Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. For Scorpio, this is an 11th house eclipse for you. Friendships, networks, your social circle, your wider community. Your 11th house is social media, right? How you connect to those large. The ninth house is publishing and it is broadcasting and, stuff like that. But the 11th house is really how you reach the large swathes of the public, right? It's also your social media profiles, all of that stuff. Something about the people that you're connected to or aligned with, or the dreams that you've been carrying about where you want your future to go, is now coming into a shift point. Pluto is in your fourth house, Uranus is in your eighth house, which means there's a really big activation here. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm going to have to mute myself while I cough my gut. Something about this. Sorry. Oh, something about this is really helping you shift into um, a greater sense of your personal power by really acknowledging how you feel. You're seeing the really deep links between your foundations and your conditioning and your intimacy and also the groups that you connect to. One of the ways that this could happen as well, it's like maybe a part of your person or persona is maybe you see like actually I'm hiding a part of who I am or what I really think and feel, and this is the reason why. And the question is, do your current circles and alliances truly support the person that you're becoming, or are they holding you back? Do they allow you to be who you envision yourself to be becoming? Your talent with direction, well, Mercury is the ruler of the eclipses in your 12th house. I love a Mercury in the 12th. It gets a bad rap, but I love Mercury in the 12th. Mercury in the 12th is psychic. Mercury in the 12th is intuitive. Mercury in the 12th is telepathic. Your intuition and your spiritual insights are going to be on point, right? Trust me, the whispers of your subconscious and your psyche and your soul are playing a key role in how you shape your friendships and your goals moving forward. Pay attention to your dreams, your gut instincts. You always do. You're a Scorpio, and what you feel beneath the surface because they're going to guide you toward the connections that really matter. And what's really interesting about this is my feeling around this is you may spot or see something that you're kind of like, huh, I never noticed that before, right? And it's like being revealed to you now, or is revealed to you over the 3 to 6 months that this eclipse unfolds. Balance of flow and challenge. Well, Saturn in that fifth house opposing this eclipse is testing your joy and creativity and your romance. And you might feel like there are some heavy restrictions around pleasure or self-expression. It's like everything just feels more serious, and it's checking that eclipse in the 11th and it's maybe asking you, so like, are you limiting your future dreams because you doubt your right to joy? Or is there a story in there somewhere where it's kind of like, well, I've had my fun, I've had my pleasure, so do you know what I mean? Like, and you have to ask yourself, what association around me is having me believe that, right? Potential for mastery here. Well, Pluto in the fourth house. The thing for you guys that you do need to be aware of is certainly by orb. Mars, your ancient ruler, is going to be square to Pluto in which is your modern ruler, right? So the two aspects of self, in some regard, are sort of potentially fighting with each other at this time. And I actually think what that is really about is helping you understand how um, I kind of feel like it's like how you understand your past or your history and integrate that instead of trying to get rid of it. Excuse me. That Uranus in the eighth is suggesting that there might be some big changes or sudden changes around intimacy, potentially resources. I wonder as well if some kind of financial element around this really shows up almost sort of very much out of the blue or by surprise. The eclipse is about aligning your future with those who amplify your power and not drain it. You know this better than anybody else, right? Yours is the sign of power. For this, you have the Ace of Swords. And so this in this deck is actually Excalibur, right? And so the message really behind this is you have to make your own mind up and you have to be clear. You have to be sure about who makes the cut. The thing about the Ace of Swords is it can cut things away, but it can just as easily cut through the confusion. And, I will say this is definitely a time for you to really, really listen to and pay attention to your hunches, your nudges, your intuitions, your dreams, even Mercury in the 12th, right? I love a Mercury in the 12th. I know I said that, but I do. I do, I do, I do. So Sagittarius. This is happening in your 10th house of career. This is activating your career, your reputation, your public life, something about how you are seen in the world, or the structures that you've been building, or the ones that are being torn down is really shifting now, and that trine to Pluto in the third house and Uranus in the seventh. There's a story here about how your words, your ideas, and your partnerships are going to shape your public path, especially if you allow yourself to be seen in some way, shape, or form. Are you stepping into a role that really sort of amplifies who you understand yourself to be, or are you clinging to like a version of you or a past version of you on the wider world stage, via your career, etc., where it's kind of like, oh yeah, this actually feels uncomfortable because it doesn't feel like me anymore. Like this is a moment where you're gonna have to be really honest with yourself and say, okay, excuse me, am I willing to go in this new direction now? Now, when it comes to talent with direction, well, Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is in your 11th house. People that you know, friendships, networks, groups, social media could have an element of this. Your longer term goals, your sort of longer, lengthy term goals of where you really want to go, and the people that you're connected to in some way are really where the breakthroughs are going to come because they're going to highlight to you what the path is that you need to take. The people that you surround yourself with and the conversations that you're willing to have at this time are really what's going to open the doors for you. Who you know and how you communicate within those circles is really going to matter more than ever. I think this is the time for you to really leverage who you are, Saggies. So, balance of flow and challenge. Well, Saturn is in your fourth house. and it's drilling down on that home, that family, that foundations kind of part of your chart. And you might feel pulled between, your private responsibilities, your home, your living situation, and your public ambition, right? These two energies are facing off in some way, shape, or form. This is the parental axis as well. So there might be stuff around parents and, interactions with parents that are calling you in different ways. It's tied up in maintaining stability at home and also how much of you is ready to be invested in your greater calling. My feeling about this is it's kind of like the home stuff is saying to you, look, you're just going to have to work with the level of foundation or security that you already have. You're going to have to be ready, willing, and able to take a risk or to go in a new direction, right? Do you have the guts and the grit to start over in the career sector of your life? Because if you do, what you welcome in will be so much greater and it will be fresh and it will be exciting and it will push you towards more of what you want to be. The potential for mastery, well, Pluto in the third house. It wants you to really think about how you're communicating, your writing, your communications, your speech. Words hold power. Words are spells, as we've been told, right? Uranus in the seventh house is suggesting that you potentially radically like change or shift or alter your direction in some way, right? And this will be via the connections that you have, the people that you interact with, your partnerships, your collaborations in some way. The eclipse is really helping you think about how you claim and or even reclaim your identity, your public persona and your image with courage and, personal grit, I think. Even if that means releasing what the safety nets. For this, you have the Six of Wands. This is one of the ultimate victory and success cards, and it basically says if you're willing to go for it, your career could be enhanced in ways that you have only dreamed of. If you are willing to allow it to unfold, if you're willing to go in for and you're willing to do every day what you know needs to be done for you to be seen, for you to be taken seriously in whatever it is that you want to do, more importantly, for you to be visible in what you do, if you're willing to do that, the success is literally just on the other side for you. Right? Like it's waiting. What are you waiting for? Is the question really. All right. Like get to it, Saggies. Capricorn. So for you guys, this is a ninth house eclipse. This is the house of your beliefs, your higher learning, travel, and truth. And when I say truth, this is not like other people's truth. This is your truth as you understand it from your perspective and your philosophies on life and the world. Something in this space is changing, right? And the tried and true tested methods that you've lived for or by, and the stories that you've told yourself, or even the educational or spiritual frameworks that have guided your life up until now, well, they're shifting, they're changing, they are in some way being eroded, and maybe you're being, forced potentially to put one of these down to say, that's no longer you, right? And maybe once upon a time, it helped you or it stood for you or it supported you, but it won't anymore, right? And so this is that you're taking on new beliefs with the trine to Pluto in the second and Uranus in the sixth house. The focus is really on how your values and your daily routines support or sabotage your bigger vision for your life, right? Are your beliefs really helping you thrive? Or are they quietly draining your energy, your resources? Is your, understand? And one of the things that I really like about this as well is it suggests that you might be able to take a framework or an understanding that you've seen elsewhere, potentially in a foreign culture, maybe on a holiday. It's like, where can you take some kind of input that you've had elsewhere and put it directly into your life now so that it really makes your daily experience that much better? The talent, excuse me, The talent with direction, well, Mercury, as the ruler of this eclipse, is sitting in the sign of Libra in your 10th house. The way that you communicate and show up in your public life, your public persona, is directly tied to your belief system now and what you are communicating, what you say, what you teach, what you learn, what you share has influence. And I really like this because it's like this is a powerful moment for you to align your voice with the truths that you really want to stand for. And, this might be really radical. Some of the ways that you move forward, people might be a bit sort of like, whoa, okay, what happened here, right? Like, who is this person? Because some of it might be so vastly different. The balance of flow and challenge, well, Saturn, your ruler in the third house, potentially is pressing on your communication, learning, and mindset. It might even be that you've been forced to upgrade your mindset, whether you wanted to or not. It could also be that maybe some of the stuff that you've been saying has been checked by siblings, neighbors, your local environment, maybe people that you work with on a daily basis. It's like, and I have to say this as well, because one of my sisters, bless her, I love her to bits. I've been really hard on her. I have been really hard on her. And it's just because she's like so much more intelligent than I am. Like, and I'm not saying that like fishing for likes or whatever. Like, she's genuinely one of the smartest people and one of the most dedicated people that I've ever met, right? And I've been really, really tough on her over the last few years because it's like I said to her, you're a Capricorn. So in order to shift this mindset, I'm going to have to really, get in there and do some of it. And I have been really hard on her. And I tell you, through that process, and obviously, she's a Capricorn. She's not Capricorn rising, but let's take it from the sun perspective. That third house being a sibling, that's me, right? I've really pushed her. I've been really, really hard on her. And the results that she's seen because of it have been incredible. Obviously, she did the heavy lifting. I'm not taking any of the credit like that, but it's just interesting to see how it plays out in this way. The eclipse in the ninth house is really asking, are you ready to let go of your limiting beliefs and inherited philosophies that no longer fit your reality so that you can build, Saturn, a new one, right? And that starts with this. The power of life and death is in the tongue, people. You've been with me long enough, you've heard me say it, right? One of my very dear mentors. I miss him so much. Um, I never forget the day he told me that because, boy, I tell you, whew, you want to talk about being hard on someone? Listen, I'm telling you, my proverbial hiney got stripped that day, I can tell you. Uh, Anywho, potential for mastery. Well, with Pluto in that second house, it's pushing you to transform your relationship with your value and your resources. It's also asking you to think about what are the possessions that actually mean something to you and what are the ones that you're gaining just for the sake of it. Given the chance to align your finances with what you truly believe, and then that Uranus energy in the sixth house, it's like breakthroughs in health and work or daily routines might help you really pursue new horizons. And then the eclipse is about rewiring your brain as you rewrite your worldview on life and your work and helping you reflect a philosophy that you really back 100%. Your card is the Daughter of Cups. So this is the Page of Cups, right? And this is to say that everything that you've been building, no, building is the wrong, no, building is probably one of the right words, but everything that you have been crafting, everything that you've been creating, everything that you've been cultivating through right emotion, right? Through where you've really taught yourself and been taught through and with love. And more importantly, where you've allowed your intuition and your sense of the mystical, right? Because in ancient astrology, the ninth house was the house of God, right? It was how you connected to the cosmos. Well, that cultivation on an internal level is about to start really paying off for you in some way. So love that for you. My dear Aquarius, sun sign brothers and sisters, for you guys, this is in your eighth house. This eclipse is activating the eighth house of intimacy, shared resources. It's your debts, endings, emotions, it's deep transformation, psychological traumas, crises, wounds. The eighth house is all of the gnarly stuff, right? Something here is really changing for you. And I think that this is about a financial tie and emotional and deep transformation is unfolding for you here. Something about this, I think, is going to help you approach a sense of self by approaching vulnerability and trust. And the trine to Pluto in your first house and Uranus in your fifth house, it's personal, this one, Aquarius. Like your identity, your joy, your romantic self, right? All of this is wrapped up in this moment of relief. And it's like whatever you let go of now, whatever around intimacy or shared commitments or resources, it ripples out into who you're becoming because it's kind of like you get rid of scarcity and lack mindset. And not just around money or resources, right? If you're single and you've been single for a long time, put both hands up, right? This could see you really shifting that to say, like, okay, right? I'm sat here saying the power of life and death is in the tongue. Stop cracking jokes about it. Start speaking it in, start calling it in, right? My partner looks like this. They have that going on for them. They might do this for work. We don't ever call for specific people because that's tampering with free will. But you can talk about the qualities that you want them to have and the emotions or emotional maturity that you would like them to have, all of those things, right? It's going to help you really start to reframe this. Now, the talent with direction, Mercury as the ruler of this eclipse, and so therefore Mercury is one of your money house rulers, is in the ninth house. And this is really helping you see how your philosophies and your higher mind need to be reshaped in some way. So even travel, right? If over the next 3 to 6 months, some form of travel could really open and expand your mind. How you frame your truth, the stories that you choose to believe about yourself directly affect how you handle bonds, commitments, trust, and even your money and your resources in some way. Um, Now, when it comes to the balance of flow and challenge, well, you've got Saturn in the second house. That is not an easy transit. It's been pressing on that money, pressing on the resources, on your self-worth, and it's been really forcing you to look at how you, and it's been testing you as well. How do you feel about money? Right? How do you feel about possessions? Are you confident in these things? The eclipse in the eighth house is really getting you to look at whether you're giving too much away, whether that's financially, emotionally, if it's because you doubt your own value, if it's because you've got history and traumas and wounds around money and all of those things. Where are you still tied to someone else's definition of your worth, Aquarius? Okay, like where are you willing to say, actually, no, that's not my story, that's not my thing to be tied to. You know, your story is not my story, and I'm going to write and tell a new one, right? That Saturn in the second house is really asking you to get a handle on your resources, how you spend, why you spend, what you spend on. All of these things are coming into question now. Your potential for mastery, well, Pluto is in the first house. It says that your identity is undergoing a profound transformation, like in about as deep as it gets, right? Because Pluto, and this is, I think, one of the reasons that I've been obsessed with the Phoenix this whole bloody year, because the Pluto energy as ruler of Scorpio is the Phoenix, right? It's that literally your whole fucking shit is going up in flames and you're going to be reborn from the ashes. Deep joy. Thanks for that. Um, right, it's a rebirth moment for you. Uranus in the fifth house is bringing sudden breakthroughs, or for some of you, this could bring sudden romance. If you're partnered or married, this could be that your partner brings a brand new element into the relationship in some way, and it reinvigorates it. If you're single, this could be somebody that completely blindsides you, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm totally smitten. It could also be sudden breakthroughs in joy and creativity, or something that you come up with that you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. And by pursuing it, you feel like, oh my gosh, this really has liberated me in some way. The more you release entanglements and connections that drain you, the more freedom you're going to have to build on true intimacy and equal footing, where the partnerships, the power in the dynamics in those things are going to be truly equal. It's like you reclaim your pleasure, you reclaim your passion, you reclaim your personal power, and then you kind of stand on both feet and say, right, this is how it's going to be from here on in. For this, you have the Eight of Cups. It's been all the water today. So many cups, everybody with the cups. Look, first of all, interesting because it's an eighth house eclipse. Well, the Eight of Cups is literally about what you walk away from or what you release. And it's basically saying that on an emotional level, on a deep emotional level, you are coming into a greater sense of alignment and balance. And by finding a new sense of emotional strength and also being comfortable with the vulnerability, you allow yourself to overcome what has only served to hold you back. This is going to be a really powerful one, I think, for the Aquarius people as well. And then finally, we have the Pisces. Last but never least, this is in your seventh house of relationships, partnerships, one-to-one connections, and dynamics. Remember, this is personal, professional, or platonic. Can even be familial or people that you live with. Something here is changing about how you connect, the commitments that you hold, the roles that you play in love and business and friendship. It's all starting to change. And with that Pluto energy in your 12th house and Uranus in the fourth, the story stretches much deeper. The hidden patterns and dynamics around who you are, around how you engage with the world, and also the foundations of home and property are really showing up on how you partner. I think you're going to see your relationship style in stark contrast. Like in some way, shape, or form, I think you're going to see yourself within the scope of relationships really clearly, Pisces. And I'm going to be honest, maybe you don't like what you see. That's not an invitation to shame and absolutely trash yourself. It's actually an invitation for you to love yourself enough to say, how am I going to overcome this and fix this? How am I going to become a better version of the partner that I want to be in all of my relationships, personal, professional, platonic? It might also, with the talent with direction, Mercury as the ruler of this eclipse for you is in the eighth house. So, intimate conversations, honesty about resources, and the willingness to go deeper is helping you navigate your relationship changes. Now, this is not surface level communication. This is about the subtle, unsaid, unspoken moments of clarity. It's about talking about the things that are taboo. It's about opening up what the wounds, the hurts, or the vulnerabilities are and being really brutally honest with yourself and with your partners, personal, professional, platonic, about what is working and what is not. Right. And when you can get into that level of honesty and through communication, there's nothing that you cannot overcome, right? I tell you that and I mean that. Balance of flow and challenge. Well, Saturn has dipped back into your sign for the final moment. It's pressing on that last part of Pisces to say to you, your identity and your body are shifting now, right? The way that you feel the weight of responsibility or the need to define yourself with more maturity, right? That eclipse in the seventh house is like, how do you balance your own growth with the expectations of the world around you or other people? Are you losing yourself in partnerships, or are you finding ways to really stand strong within them? It could be one or the other. It could be both. It could be neither, right? Obviously, this will be unique to you. Finally, the potential for mastery. Well, you've got Pluto in the 12th, pointing to the deep psychological transformations in the corners and the depths of your psyche, an area that you're comfortable with. It's allowing you to get rid of old self-sabotaging habits. that really potentially distort your connections as well, right? And there's something in this about what you deserve and all of that kind of stuff. Uranus in the fourth house is suggesting breakthroughs at home or in family dynamics that can radically change the way that you show up in partnership. Mastery here is about, really forging relationships that are built on equality, depth, authenticity, getting rid of the illusions, being honest about your emotions. It's Uranus in the fourth. This eclipse, could trigger a move, but it would be like I almost feel like this would be a sideways move rather than a direct one, if that makes sense. I can't explain it any better than that. Your card, dear Pisces, is the Two of Pentacles. This is usually about balancing the books and the budget and all of that, but I actually think this is about balancing the internal books and budget. I also think this is about finding the most even footing between you and a partner, and really coming into a greater sense of self and alignment. The other thing with the Two of Pentacles, you are being urged here to really pay attention to what is not being said as much as what is being said. All right. Okay. With that said, that is the exploration of this eclipse. I really hope that it is good to you and it unfolds in perfect harmony over the next 3 to 6 months. If you would like to book a personal astrology session with me, you can do so on the link in the description box below. You can check out all of my services there. For those of you that are so inclined, please don't forget to check out my mailing list. You're going to get on there, you're going to get weekly emails from yours truly that you are going to love, including discount goodies and codes that you won't be getting anywhere else. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Have a wonderful eclipse. Look after yourself, take care, and I will see you soon.